Hey, stream.
Bruises stood bold against the pale white of her skin. Other, older bruises shone yellow, former gifts from her father's meaty fists. Lauren
Okay, we're finishing this audiobook this week.
pulled the shirt up higher until Anna's fists. Lauren pulled the shirt up higher until Annis could see the bruises that ran across her chest and all along her back. Annis squeaked and leaped along her back. Annis squeaked and leaped chest and all along her back. Annis squeaked and
Hey, what's up, Alex?
leaped across the carriage to yank Lauren pulled the shirt up higher until Annis could see the bruises that ran across her chest and all along her back. Annis squeaked and leaped across the carriage to yank Lauren's tunic down. She released the garment like a snake and withdrew, sinking into the purple cushions of the carriage seat. "What is wrong?" said Lauren. "I did not..." said Lauren. "I did not mean to frighten you." "Frighten me?" squeaked. "Mean to frighten you?" "Frighten me?" squeaked Annis. Why not just..." squeaked Annis.
This is Adobe Audition.
Why not just strip naked? Lauren blinked. "What, do..." Lauren blinked. "What, do all the peasants of your village walk nude beneath the sun? Are you savage?" "Beneath the sun? Are you savages?" A scowl savages? A scowl twisted Lauren's features. I can... Lauren's features. I can say at least that we are not partial to insults. What is the matter? We're women both, and you are too young for courting. Annis... Annis stuck... And you are too young for courting. Annis stuck her nose in the air. In civilized circles, we do not go around parading our bodies. It is unseemly.
Yeah, I would honestly, Pro Tools is a better program, especially for audio editing. But Pro Tools is also very expensive.
Our bodies. It is unseemly. Lauren snorted. Seemly. Lauren snorted. Very well. I shall not trouble you with my savage customs and peasants.
Yeah, Audacity's pretty good, and it also has the advantage of being free. It's just not quite as just not quite as powerful, I guess. Although, I mean, lots of, like Welcome to Night Vale has run, and all of the other podcasts that the Night Vale people do have run for years and years with amazing audio quality, and it's all done in Audacity. Like, Audacity is totally a viable option. Audition is a little bit closer to the way that Pro Tools works, and I learned audio in Pro Tools, so it's better for me.
You with my savage customs and peasant's body. She pushed body. She pushed away from the bench and threw open the carriage door, striding out into the... She pushed away from the bench and peasant's body. She pushed away from the bench and threw open the carriage door, striding out onto the grass. After a moment, the carriage door slammed shut again. Lauren walked Carriage door slammed shut again.
Shut the fuck up.
For a moment, the carriage door slammed shut. The carriage door slammed shut.
Oh my god.
Carriage door slammed shut again. Lauren walked for the rest of the day. The caravan moved in no great hurry, and so she easily kept the pace of the horses. Soon she forgot her annoyance with Annis and was able to enjoy again the sights of the strange land around her. The ridge she had crossed soon turned into a low mountain range that ran south, following the course of the road. Or rather, she supposed, the road followed the mountains. Excuse me. Hey, what's up, Dredd? Clundy Man, thanks for the bits! Sorry, we don't have notifications up today. It's harder to set up when I'm doing the audio recording. Oh, we do have chat up on the screen. Every so often, she looked back to... supposed, the road followed the mountains. Every so often, she looked back towards... Every so often... followed the mountains. Every so often, she looked back towards the caravan to see Gregor studying her from under his gleaming helm. Soon she had to make up her mind to ignore him. How could Lauren blame him for being suspicious of a mysterious girl pursued by constables? Eventually, the sun neared the tops of the mountains, and the wagons pulled to a stop. Unlike at Unlike at the midday meal, this time they pulled into a tight circle by the side of the road. Guards dismounted and began to erect a large purple tent amid the wagons. Lauren did not need to guess who would sleep there. She decided to head for the trees while some light remained. Damaris had offered food, but Lauren did not want to endanger her hospitality by burdening the caravan's supplies. And if Annis had spoken to her mother, they might already be inclined to see Lauren leave. And if Annis and if Annis had spoken to her mother, they might already be inclined to see Lauren leave. But before she could set off for the woods, she heard footsteps and turned to find Annis. The girl stood. The girl stood there, hands clasped behind her back and gaze fixed. The girl stood there. The girl to find Annis. The girl stood there, hands clasped behind her back and gaze fixed on the ground. Gaze. Behind her back and gaze fixed on the ground. She looked for all the world like a village child about to be chastised. Lauren almost smirked. I am smirked. Lauren almost smirked. I am sorry I insulted you. I did not mean it. Only, we are not so free with ourselves. Only, we... Sorry I insulted you. I did not mean it. Only, we are not so free with ourselves as you are. No apology. Selves as you are. No apology is necessary, said Lauren, feeling gracious. As necessary, said Lauren, feeling gracious as she bowed. I should not have presumed to be so forward. Annis looked up at last. You are not angry with me, then? Lauren. With me, then? Lauren sighed inwardly. She could not help the thought that Annis would anger her again before the road ended, but she smiled. Of course not. She smiled. Of course not. I make for the woods to catch myself dinner. When I return, would you sup with me? Annis's eyes widened as they had when Lauren first saw her. Annis's eyes widened as they had. Would you sup with me? Annis's eyes widened as they had when Lauren first saw her. Of course. saw her. Of course, I would be delighted. Lauren left her with delighted. Lauren left her with a smile and made for the woods. She soon saw a squirrel and a rabbit, but both her shots went wide, and she lost one of the arrows. Then she spotted a quail just as the last light died in the sky. Her arrow arrows. Then she spotted a quail just as the last light died in the sky. Her arrow flew true, and she picked up the bird to bring it back to camp. She built a small fire back to camp. She built a small fire and began plucking. But before she had the quail ready for the fire, she felt a presence in the darkness. She looked She felt a presence in the darkness. She looked up and squinted. Damaris's dark face appeared, her eyes glinting in the flickering flames. Damaris. Did you find our provisions? Flickering flames. Did you find her eyes glinting in the flickering flames. Did you find our provisions unsatisfactory? Said the merchant. I could have had one of my men fetch a bird, if you wished. Lauren laid bird, if you wished. Lauren laid the quail down and stood quickly to bow. No, of course not, my lady. I did not want to impose upon your generosity any more than I already have. Free passage south is a great gift, and I would not ask you to feed me as well. Yet you do not even to feed me as well. Yet you do not even take our passage in Yet you do not even to feed me as well. Yet you do not even take our passage in truth, for you spent much of the day on your feet. Lauren blushed, feeling spent much of the day on your feet. Lauren blushed, feeling somehow off balance. Lauren blushed, feeling somehow off. Lauren passage in truth, for you spent much of the day on your feet. Lauren blushed, feeling somehow off balance. Had she delivered some insult? These people had strange customs, and she seemed to break them at every turn. To break them at every turn. I have never been in a carriage before, and I found the motion disorienting. She did not think it would help to say that Annis had called her a savage. Her a savage. I shall tell called her a savage. I shall tell the driver to be more gentle, then. Damaris's voice betrayed no emotion, yet Damaris's voice driver to be more gentle, then. Damaris's voice betrayed no emotion, yet Lauren somehow felt that she had angered the merchant. "I will happily ride tomorrow, my lady." Lauren bowed low. "And I apologize." Lauren bowed low. "And I apologize if I offered any insult." "Oh, do not any insult." "Oh, do not trouble yourself." "Oh, do not trouble yourself." Now, Ennis had offered any insult. "Oh, do not trouble yourself." Now, Ennis has taken it into her head to sup with you. I told her that you likely wish to you. I told her that you likely wished to be left alone. Ennis appeared behind her mother. To be left alone. Ennis appeared behind her mother's legs like a goblin leaking. Ennis appeared behind. You likely wish to be left alone. Ennis appeared behind her mother's legs like a goblin leaping from the dark. "She does not, mother. She asked me." "She would be most welcome." "She does not, mother. She asked me." "She would be most welcome," said Lauren quickly. "I did offer, but I would never think to pull her from your company." Oh, my friggin' phone notifications today. Oof. And then I'm going to hear it while I'm editing, and I'm going to be... Yay for chores, Bumblebee. I'm going to put it here so I will hear it, otherwise I'm going to miss it, and then I'm going to hear it while I'm editing, and I'm going to be pissed. Oh, I think it is good for her to spend... Oh, I think it is good for her to spend time... The merchant's stern look seemed to melt away. Or company. But I would never think to pull her from your company. Oh, I think it is good for her to spend time with others. Indeed, I often have trouble prying her from my side. The merchant's stern look seemed to melt away, and a warm smile spread across her features. Rather than feel reassured, Lauren felt even more unsettled. Annis squealed and leaped. Lauren felt even more unsettled. Annis squealed. Lauren felt even more unsettled. Annis squealed and leaped forwards, sitting on the ground beside the fire without a second thought for her fine purple dress. Damaris inclined her head and then turned to vanish into the darkness. "What did you catch?" To vanish into the darkness. "What did you catch?" said Annis, leaning forwards. "It is a..."
Interesting.
Leaning forwards. It is a quail. It will be ready soon. She picked the bird. She picked the bird back up and resumed her plucking. Are you a good hunter? Plucking. Are you a good hunter? I can... Are you a good hunter? I can feed myself, but I learned from a boy in my village whose skill dwarfed my... But I learned from a boy in myself. But I learned... myself. But I learned from a boy in my village whose skill... I can feed myself, but I learned from a boy in my village whose... myself, but I learned from a boy in my village whose skill dwarfed my own. He can bring a stag down at full sprint. With memories of Chet came a lance of pain. Lauren stopped talking and bowed her head over the quail, pretending to work. Annis did not. Over the quail, pretending to work. Annis did not seem to notice. Annis pretending to work. Annis did not seem to notice. Tell me about... to notice. Tell me about your forest. Did you like it there? I have only ever seen the seat. I have only ever seen the seat. This is my first time in the wilderness. Lauren would hardly have called this tame. Lauren would hardly have called this tame land a wilderness, but she thought better than to say so. The forest was a good... than to say so. The forest was a good home to me, she said, but the people within it were less kind, my parents notably so. Annis's... My parents notably so. Annis's face fell. Were they very cruel? They seem like the wicked step-parents you hear of in stories. Lauren snorted. stories. Lauren snorted. In stories... Lauren snorted. In stories, the parents lock the daughter...
Oh my god.
In stories, the parents lock the daughter... In stories, the... Snorted. In stories, the parents lock the daughter in a high... Lauren snorted. In stories, the parents lock the child in a high tower to keep... Lauren snorted. In stories, the parents lock the child in a high tower to keep them from true love. They do not beat the daughter for failing to chop enough logs. They do not whip the daughter for mussing her dress. Lauren's... enough logs. They do not whip the daughter for mussing her dress. Lauren's fingers had grown tight around her hunting knife. She forced them to loosen. Around her hunting knife. She forced them to loosen. How could you... She forced them to loosen. How could you stand it? Said Annis. I think I would have gone mad. Lauren smiled. Lauren smiled. And smiled. And smiled. Mad. Lauren smiled. She looked into the darkness to either side of her as though searching for an eavesdropper. I might have done. Did you ever think of that? For an eavesdropper. I might have done. Did you ever think of that, my little lady? She flipped her... She flipped her knife over the back of her palm and drops of blood spattered the dirt. Annis gave a little... Annis gave a little squeal. How did you learn to do that? I wish I could flip a knife. Lauren chuckled. Flip a knife. Lauren chuckled. Lauren chuckled and turned back to the... A knife. Lauren chuckled and turned back to the quail. She carved off long strips of its flesh and impaled them on sticks she had gathered from the ground, and then propped the sticks up to cook over the fire. That... up to cook over the fire. That
Hey,
little
what's up,
trick
Josh?
and a fair few...
Howdy, Josh. Sorry, I realize it's probably hard to hear when I talk while the audiobook is playing.
up to cook over the fire. That little trick and a fair few stories I learned from an old man named Bracken. Bracken? Annis cocked her head and narrowed her eyes. Lauren raised... Annis cocked her head and narrowed her eyes. Lauren raised her hands. I doubt he gave his true name. He used to say that true names held power, and that only fools gave theirs away. He used to say that true names held power, and that only fools gave theirs away. He was old when my parents were children. Fools gave theirs away. He was old when my parents were children, and he came to our village in autumn every year. He carried a great sack filled with metal pans and hunting knives and old boots. He would trade them in the village, but never for coin. Always he but never for coin. Always he traded for food or trinkets or a nice strong bow. A peddler. A strong bow. A peddler. Lauren cocked her head. A peddler. Lauren cocked her head. I do not know that word. He was a peddler, said Annis, drawing up straight and puffing out her chest in pride. They move from town to town, selling and trading. They often tell stories as well. Tall as a... They often tell stories as well. Tall as a peddler's tail, we say on the seat. Lauren shrugged. We say on the seat. Lauren shrugged. Lauren shrugged. Well, Bracken... Peddler's tale, we say on the seat. Lauren shrugged. Well, Bracken told tales, true enough. Simple tales of things happening in the Nine Lands today, and grand tales of knights and dragons from faraway yesteryears. When I went out to fell trees, often he would fall from faraway yesteryears. When I went out to fell trees, often he would follow, sitting in a crook or hollow to spin his stories. I love stories. In a crook or hollow to spin his stories. I love stories of dragons, said Annis. Is it true they are still to be found out in the world? Lauren gave a little smile. Truly, dragons? I did not take you for one who sought to be a mighty warrior. Annis smiled. My tutors said the same thing. Soon I turned it. said the same thing. Soon I turned it into a joke and said that I only liked the dragons because they had so much gold, just like my... Because they... The dragons because they had... Dragons because they had so much gold, just like my family. Lauren. Family. Lauren chuckled. I like a quick wit. Chuckled. I like a quick wit. Quit. I like a quick wit. I like a quick wit. Buh. My throat. I like a quick wit. Lauren chuckled. I like a quick wit. But come. I like a quick wit. But come. Lauren chuckled. I like a quick wit. But come, tell me. Tell me, did you have... But come, tell me, did you have favorite stories? Did you like to hear of the princesses who overcame their... Did you like to hear of the... Did you like to hear... Did you have favorite stories? Did you like to hear of the children who overcame their wicked step-parents? You must have hoped to escape as they did. Lauren said... You must have hoped to escape as they did. Lauren sat silent for a moment. She feared... Must have hoped to escape as they did. Lauren sat silent for a moment. She feared it unwise to speak of her purpose with just anyone, but Annis was only a child. With just anyone, but Annis was only a child. Who would believe her? And if they did... believe her. And if they did, what then? Lauren had done nothing wrong. Yet. She leaned... She leaned forwards and pulled the sticks of quail from the fire. Have you heard... Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Pulled the sticks of quail from the fire. Have you heard the tale of Menet the Mist? Heard the tale of Menet the Mist? Tale of Menet the Mist? Menet the Mist? Menet the Mist? And tale of Menet the Mist? Annis took a stick, her eyes alight, and leaned back to wrap her arms around her knees. She took a large bite and chewed noisily. No? Who was he? There never lived... No? Who was he? There never lived a greater thief than Menet the Mist, said... noisily. No? Who was he? There never lived a greater thief than Menet the Mist, said Lauren, trying to mimic Bracken's voice when he began a tale. They say he struck a... They say he struck a... and a tail. They say he... Menet the Mist, said Lauren, trying to mimic Bracken's voice when he began a tale. They say he struck a deal with the shadows themselves. He wove them into a cloak to melt into any darkness and appear in another shadow whenever he wanted, even in the vaults of cruel kings and tyrants. Ooh, not always, said tyrants. Even in the vaults of cruel kings and tyrants. Ooh, said Annis. He was a good man, then? He was a good man, then? Not... And then? Said Annis. He was a good man, then? Not always, said Lauren, shaking her head. He grew up poor. shaking her head. He grew up poor and barefoot in the streets of some city, I forget which. He fell in with cutthroats and brigands, and when he grew older, he grew older.
Hey, what's up, Erica?
And brigands, and when he grew older, he lived as a highwayman, waylaying caravans, like this one. Annis caravans, like this one. Annis looked over her shoulder into the night. Bracken would have been proud. But Bracken would have been proud. But one day, as he and his men rode through the land in search... Bracken would have been proud. But one day, as he and his men rode through the land in search of
That's awesome, Erica.
more plentiful bounty, they came upon a village. The king in that land treated his subjects poorly and met any insolence with fire and sword. Some man in the village had delivered insult, and so the king sent his army to burn the place to ashes. Some of Menet's men wanted to ignore the fire. Others wanted to steal what they could, but Menet spurred his horse into the town, for he had heard a babe's cry. He found her in a house in the middle of the village, her parents having fled or lying cold in the dirt. Menet leaped through a window and scooped her up, but fire blocked his escape. That is when he pleaded with the shadows he had befriended all his life, and they enveloped, befriended all his life. Befriended all his life, and they enveloped him. The house collapsed, and Menet's men thought he had died. But then he stepped from the shadows of the trees, the babe in his arms. Terrified, all the men fled. Menet had... Hey, what's up, Twitch? Yeah, it's kind of annoying, Miak. But we soldier on. Terrified, all the men fled. Menet had... Menet had finished his... Men fled. Menet had... Terrified, all the men fled. Menet had finished his days as a highwayman, and he... as a highwayman. Terrified, all the men fled. Menet had finished his days as a highwayman, and he turned his talents to doing good. First he stole the king's gold and brought it to the villagers who had lost their homes, repaying them 10 times for the damage. Then Then he traveled across the land seeking other wrongs and turning them right. If a nobleman plotted the wrongs and turning them right. If a nobleman plotted the death of his lord, he might find his private letters taken and constables soon knocking at his door. If one of the 9 kings plotted rebellion against the High King, Menet would know, and the traitor would find the other If one of the 9 kings plotted rebellion against war, if one of the 9 kings at his door. If one of the 9 kings plotted rebellion against the High King, Menet would know, and the traitor would find the other lands united against him. I would wager that he lands united against him. I would wager that against him. I would wager that he slipped his sharp blades into more than a few backs as well, said Annis. Lauren shook her head quickly. No, Menet never took a life. He preferred cleverness to strength, speed to skill with a blade. He preferred cleverness to strength. Menet never took a life. He preferred Lauren shook her head quickly. No, Menet never took a life. He preferred cleverness to strength, speed to skill, strength, speed, strength. Cleverness to strength. To strength, speed to skill with a blade. No one could bring him to a fight. They found themselves outmaneuvered first, their weapons vanished, their men unwilling to battle. Menet held that only kings could judge, and then only if justice lay on their side. This lay on
Boy, my mouth was clicky this day.
And then only if justice lay on their side. And so when they abandoned justice, Menet turned it upon them, and even then only if justice lay on their side. And so on their side. And so when they abandoned justice, Menet turned it upon them, and even then he refused on them, and even on them, and even then he refused to swing its righteous sword. He never saw it as his place. Annis sat its righteous sword. He never saw it as his place. Annis sat in silence for to swing its righteous sword. He never saw it as his place. Annis sat in silence for a moment, chewing her quail. Then, in a small voice, she said, chewing her quail. Then, in a small voice, she said, Do you mean to find... Small voice, she said, Do you mean to find Mennet, then? Lauren stared at the flames. He lived many and more a yesteryear ago. No, the world has not seen his like in an eon. But when Bracken told me those tales, they stayed in my mind. And whenever Father grew angry and struck me, when my mother shrilled and pinched and locked me in a cupboard, I remembered
Almost done with this chapter.
Cupboard. I remembered Mennet. I remembered that he did more good with his mind and his words than any king with a mighty sword and an army at his back. I remembered that he did more... I remembered that he did more good with his... Cupboard. I remembered Mennet. I remembered that he did more... I remembered... I remembered Mennet. I remembered that he did more good with his mind and his words than any king with a mighty sword and an army at his back. My father seemed weak then, my mother foolish, and I hoped... that one day I could escape and become the kind of person they should have been. Annis considered that. Where is this... They should have been. Annis considered that. Where is this Bracken now? 3 years ago, he stopped coming. Bracken now. 3 years ago, he stopped coming. Ugh. I am Twitch. Fear me. All fear the mighty Miak Twitch. 3 years... Where is this Bracken now?
Oh God, Erica.
3 years ago, he stopped coming. He must have died. He was very old. The air dropped to silence. Stopped coming. He must have died. He was very old. Very old. Very old. Old. Very old. Old. The air dropped to... He was very old. The air dropped to silence again. Lauren realized...
Well, that's something.
To silence again. Lauren realized that she had not yet touched the quail, and Annis had eaten nearly half of it. Are you going to eat all my hard-won bird? Annis... Hard-won bird? Annis smirked and took another bite. Only if you... smirked and took another bite. Only if you refuse to. Lauren picked up a stick, eating without seeing the food in her fingers. She could see only the fire, the red shape of it leaping up and down, swaying with every gust of wind.
Okay. $18-minute chapter, not too bad. We will bounce that fucker, and then I have to go. I think I actually need to double check that with Megan. But we're supposed to be having lunch. Lunch. Duh. It's a good long chapter. Spirited. Shades of shame. Yeah, living inside, we're the same. Yeah. Oh no. Nope. Stop.
Chapter 9.
Computer. Stop. Hey, Bumblebee. You're wonderful. I almost said you're 100 because it says cheer 100 on my screen, but no, you're wonderful. How you doing? So every time we finish a chapter, I always export the MP3 and then go to upload it to Find Away Voices immediately. And it feels so good. It's like, it's such a nice little dopamine hit. It's like, hey, another done chapter. What time are we doing lunch? We're on stream, by the way, so.
We're supposed to do it at noon.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to end off. I did almost an hour and a half. So I'm going to end stream. Just got done some writing. Was going to try and take a nap. Oh, fun. Locking keys in the car is always such a good time. Ugh. Well, enjoy your nap after that. I'm going to go have lunch with Brenna before she flies back to Australia. I'm going to play you a short audio clip of how I feel right now.
This song is called I Am So Sad. I am so very, very sad. Goes a little something like this. Thank you.
If you want.
What'd you say?
You can go for another 15 minutes if you want.
It's then I just get right in the middle and feel bad about ending off and everything. Get it back. So we did 14 minutes. It's not bad. Okay. Wow. All right, everyone. I'm going to end stream. Thank you for coming and hanging out. And I will be back after lunch. And yeah. Catch you next time. Bye. Oh, hold on. We're going to raid someone. Obviously, that's what we always do. Who's up? Melody Casey, who raided us the other day. Appears to be writing as well, so definitely go say hi. Wish her luck on whatever she's working on. And yeah, I will catch y'all next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Yeah, no, that's definitely that belongs. That's necessary. You should share that in the Discord so people know what you're talking about. I should. Here's the image that I turned into a phallic figure with white flames. Jeez Louise. So we'll go ahead. We'll do another sprint. Oh hey, VlogaNovel. Thank you very much for that raid, guys. If you are not following VlogaNovel, Garrett